Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from around the world. We're set for another set of six here, the Federation of International Touch, reaching out to participants all around the world to talk all things touch football. And tonight we are going to have a look at the 5th edition rules, the rules that have been introduced for the Federation, and just talk to some leading lights in the youth development program for the Federation and just how the effect of those rules has had on the developing players in the game. So without any further ado, we'll introduce David Parker and Jordan Zhu, who'll lead us through the conversation tonight as we talk about the 5th edition and the effect on junior development. Thanks for joining us, gentlemen.
How are you, mate?
Hello, Adam.
Yeah, going very well here in lockdown in Sydney, New South Wales. So, locked away for a couple of months in our houses. COVID has taken a hold here again. And, this is the first time we've really been affected by it here in Sydney, and the whole place is shut down. So I'm coming to you from a place I've been pretty much every day for the last month and a half. But it's great to be talking touch football and with some very learned gentlemen as well. As I said, we're going to talk about the introduction of the 5th edition of the rules, something that's come into effect, and the effect that it's had on the game. So there's 9 key changes that we've identified, and we want to run through those tonight. And as we step through each of those, we'll talk about the effects that it has had and how you guys are facing it in the youth development sphere of the sport. It's not really about coaching. It's about the impact that it has on our younger players coming forward, being introduced into new specifics about the game. And we just stress that, this is just a little bit of a conversation around youth development. So we might just pop up on the screen, if we can, the rule changes that we've identified, the 9 key areas. We can see here the very first one that we can see, the start of the match. So what are the changes there, Dave, around the process of starting a match?
Well, I mean, basically the match still starts the same way with the, tapping off, but it probably comes back to more of those situations where a drop-off could come into effect. So whether you want to tap the ball or not. Yep. I think we may touch on the drop-off later, but just with the start of the game, obviously now with the rule changes, if it goes to a drop-off, you don't really want to be starting the game off. You want to be have the tap in the second half so that you get the start in the drop-off. Right.
So the decision at the start of the game has that massive effect there. We can't gaze into a crystal ball and know that we're going to hit a drop-off. We don't want to be we don't want to get to that point, but I guess that's a really good indicator there. And especially with the younger players too, just educating them on the reasons why we want to make those choices so early in the game.
Yeah, you want to give yourself the chance if it does go to a drop-off to get the most possession.
Yeah, of course. And also the effect there that it has on the interchange area, that's something else as well. At major tournaments, you might want to be closer to the home crowd or, in the shade and things like that also have an impact, especially with the young players again.
Yeah, you see, especially those semi-final, final sort of games where a bit of mind games might go on. You might ask to change sub boxes or, everyone tries to get their favourite sub box or, someone might try and take it from you. So there's all those type of games going on.
Absolutely. The mind games that start right before the toss of the coin. So, again, something that's got to be considered when you're making your way out to the field and just talking to your captains about, what are you going to do here? Some of the considerations that you're going to have. And especially, again.
It probably comes back to a lot of, what sort of team you have as well. You could, have a very good defensive team and want to get your defense right from the start. And then, if you're behind coming into the second half, at least you've got the tap off and you might be able to run a tap off play to get yourself a bit of momentum coming off that second half.
Yeah, nice. So one of the real big changes in these rules has to be the change from 5 meters for being onside to 7 meters. Extra 2 meters doesn't sound like a lot, but it has really opened up the game. Jordan, what are your thoughts on that one, mate?
Yes, I think maybe for international game, so people will not feel too many changes in the game we play. But in China, it actually made a massive impact because most of the touch players in China in different regions, they're from rugby background. So when the games play, they usually come back like 2 meters or 3 meters. So those things happen when we play the national championship. But since FIT have made an announcement, we spread the words to different cities in China that really changed the game we play a lot. It's like from people getting back to 3 meters to 7 and 8 meters. That really increased the pace of the game, which make touch football a better game to watch in China.
Right. And Dave, is that something you see reflected here in Australia and in games you've seen around the world so far?
I think the pace of the game has probably increased, but not probably like a huge amount. Like the pace of the game was always fast. I think the biggest thing is probably for the officials. It's made a bigger difference for them with being able to determine, having that 7 meter line, especially, in the attacking zone, that they've got a better guide now. I think in the midfield, they're still, it's probably more than 7, but, most players are happy, I think, as long as it's a consistency there.
Yeah, that's the key. And I think, as you said, it's probably been 7 meters in reality in the midfield for most parts. Referees tend to communicate, and because of the speed of the game, it really is an open interpretation of the officials that are out there, and it's a communicative thing where they'll be telling players they're on, they're off. And from the sideline, it can look like sometimes, it's 5, it's 7, it's 10. But the referees will control that part of the game. So that open nature of 7 meters now, as it's called, has probably been going on. But it really is around the try line where it's become a massive effect.
Yeah. I think our, for the youth out there, it's, those kids with a bit of footwork, a bit of speed, it has opened up the game for them a lot more.
Yeah. And what sort of plays are we seeing now? How has it opened up the game? What sort of plays are we seeing, come and go with this introduction of 7 meters?
I think you're still your traditional sweeper plays and things like that are still very prominent. Obviously, with your static plays like your quickies and things like that, that 2 meters doesn't seem a lot, but especially the older players, it's a big effort to get back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't. There's not a huge amount of plays. I think your plays against the grain, like all those type of plays have probably come into effect a little bit more because trying to get back that extra couple of meters and then having to change direction again adds another element to it.
Yeah. Jordan, what are your thoughts there, mate?
I think, as I mentioned, the 7 meter rules give the consistency to different regions. So for our case, China has only have Guangzhou who enter international games. So for other cities, especially up in the north, they don't know about what Big 5 means. They don't see. So when they check the videos, when they see the World Cup, say why this is always more than 7 meters. It's like 10 meters and 9 meters. So many questions have been thrown today before the fixed edition. Yeah. But actually right now, the fifth edition has provided the consistent standard rules for the whole nation, for around the world. So that's pretty good, I think. And for the youth perspective, so when we used to coach or ref in the youth competition, especially for kids at young age, like below 10 years old, when they got the ball, they used to run around instead of running forward. So in the competition happened in last month in June, the National Touch Championship, I see a lot of kids trying to, their first option after they catching the ball, they start moving forward. I think I think the major cause of that is that those coaches realize to change the rules. So also the rule allow the kids to have more space to run. So they actually change the style of play in the youth level in China.
So again, it goes back to that 2 meters doesn't seem like a lot, but in reality, as a mindset, it can change players' mindset where they feel they've got more space, so they try more. So, that's a good indicator there. And especially with the young players as they're developing their confidence, it just opens up the game a little bit more for them. Just to touch on the 7 meters, Dave, you talked about the 7 meter line now. So can you give us an idea about what that is and the impact that it's had on the game for both players and from a referee's perspective? The referees, I guess, discretion's been taken away.
Yeah, well, I mean, the 7 meter line is marked the same as what the 5 meter line was as a broken line. So now if a defensive player enters that 7 meter zone and the ball isn't inside that zone, then they must move forward in a positive manner to initiate a touch. It's made, I think a lot of people think about how the game's defended and what type of patterns they can run to manipulate that.
So just as we see on the screen there, if you can read that screen, if the touch is made on the 7 meters line to be onside, the defensive player has to retreat to the try line. However, if the touch is made on the 8 meter line, the players only have to retire a meter. So it is commensurate around that 7 meter marking. But the onside, once that touch is made on that 7 meter line, they have to retreat to the try line before they can move forward. And I guess the moving forward is where a lot of this comes into play now, because we're looking at, you touched on it, you have to be making a concerted effort, and it's at a reasonable pace. So how do we explain reasonable pace to people out there who might be watching this afternoon or this evening? What's the best explanation of what a reasonable pace is?
I think this wording of reasonable pace came in when you looked at the old rules. Like, you used to get a lot of people, they used to call it marching, like up and like,
almost
yes,
on the
sir.
spot.
Yeah, I'm moving forward, but you're not. And I guess the reasonable pace is probably at the referee's discretion, but they're saying you must be moving forward at least, in your normal walking pace.
Yep.
I guess, not, a marching or a short step.
Yeah.
And if you're the person making the touch, like, you're having the intent in making a touch.
I think that's the key, the intention to make a touch. So it takes away that marching that you said, the walking on the spot. Oh, look at me, sir. I'm moving, but you're not intending to make a touch. So that's a real key point there in that one, I think. What about when the defending players enter the 7 meter zone? What's So
if you're a defender and you enter that 7 meters, the referee will then ask you to move forward.
Right.
So until the touch is imminent, which is another probably referee's discretion as to what they consider as imminent, the defender must continue to move forward. And once the touch becomes imminent, then you can start to get onside.
And when's the other point in the game that those defending players can retreat again? Like, what's the trigger for a defending player not to have to move forward?
If the ball enters inside the 7 meters. If
So
the
once
ball
the ball-
enters, if the ball is entered inside the 7 meters,
Yep.
the defenders don't have to move forward anymore.
So
They can stand still.
how do we I guess prepare our youth players for when that occurs? What decisions they have to make? What are some of the key elements that you'd give to the developing players, the youth, in making that rule change work for them?
Yeah, we're running a lot of drills with our youth in getting them to be really positive in going and making touches. So showing the intent to get out as that point defender, the lead defender, to try and get those touches made outside the 7 meters.
Yeah.
So then, if it's 8, 9, or 10, that you're not having. Obviously, you still got to get back 7 meters, but the referee's not using the try line as a guide. So there's probably a little bit of a grey area there. And so if that point defender is being positive in making that touch, and their hand is out and they're looking like they're going to make a touch, then that allows the other defenders then to start to drop and get onside.
Yeah, nice. And Jordan, I know you've got some quite clear views here, and you might be able to run us through some of the impact that the 7 meter rule on the Lions had around the game. You with us, Jordan?
Yes.
We might.
Sorry, I just.
I got you now. You're all right, mate.
Yeah, I just lost my connection. Sorry.
Okay, we were just talking about the 7 meter rule close to the line. I know that you have some solid ideas about the impact that that's had on the game, and you just want to talk us through some vision that we can share, and what you think is the whole thing about the moving forward at a reasonable pace.
Yes.
So we might bring that vision up now, and as we see that being played, we'll get Jordan to talk us through. So vision of the World Cup final.
Yes, I just showing the senior mix World Cup final in 2015. So that's when the 4th edition of rules was played, and so when we can see, so when the attacking team is close to the try line, the defender intentionally dropping back.
Mm-hmm.
So we can see the players after making touch, they're drawing back. So especially when you're checking the link, she's not moving up forward with the intention to make the touch. Yeah, without intention to making the touch.
It was very clear in some of those passages of play there, the one defender who had the intention coming up off the line, but going back to what Dave was saying, there was a lot of marching going on and players even dropping back well before the ball was inside that attacking area. We see it again here very clearly in the shot.
Yeah, especially and in this vision, you can see the other middle is not moving forward with the intention of making the touch. So it's just lazy defense, but that gives them advantage in defense, so then they can move back quickly. Yes.
So how does the 5th edition take away, or add to the game? I know David talked about earlier on about increasing the pace of the game and making it a better game to watch. How does that impact on the game?
I think for my personal perspective, because I play in 2 Touch World Cups, 2015 and 2019. I think in the 2019 World Cup, I think the referees have to try to push the defender, especially the middles and lane, to move up at a reasonable pace. So in that case, we cannot have the defender to protect the other defenders by standing behind and lazy defense. So it creates a very positive impact to the game because that brings more fitness requirement for the defender, which means so when you defend in the middle, you have to be very fit. You have to change your direction very quick, so moving up and back very quickly, and also, as you can see, create a better image, better vision for the audience, for the spectators to watch the game. So especially when the whole team's moving up, it's a better game to watch. That's my perspective.
Just some apologies there again. We're experiencing some difficulties there, Dave. We might bring you into the conversation there. Having a look at that vision from the 2015 World Cup and now the introduction of the 5th edition rules, can you see a massive change coming into the game from that sort of vision?
Oh, 100%. Like from that vision there, you could see the New Zealand link and even the pocket middle there really having too much intention to move forward. They, trying to show the referee that they were. But I'm sure if you compare that to, say, the last World Cup or even our last Nationals, the players definitely have more intent in moving forward because they know they're going to get penalised now.
Yeah.
The referees have set the standard, which is fantastic. And that's, even like you saw that vision there with the New Zealand middle getting out and making a touch, like he was quite positive in trying to get up. And that's what we're like with our younger players. That's what we're encouraging them to do because the intent is there to make a touch. And if the intent is there to make a touch, then the other defenders can start to drop to get onside.
It goes back to that, as you said, you want to try and buy as much space in defence as you can. And the quicker you're moving forward, you're taking metres away from the attacking opposition, cutting down time, the ability to set up their structured plays. I think if we can drive into the 7 metres, but by moving forward with intent and with pace, you're actually getting these younger players to take that away.
And that's the thing with the youth as well. One thing we try and tell our youth players is that the one thing that a lot of youth players need is time to make a decision. And by pressing up and being positive in making touches, you take that decision-making time away.
So let's flip it. How do you prepare your attacking players to utilise that 7 metres to their advantage?
For me, if you can get the roll ball on the 7 metres, it's a huge advantage because the referee is most likely 9 times out of 10 going to take the defender right back to the troller. And that extra 2 metres is a lot of ground to cover. And if you've got good, players who can run good sweeper plays, even good ball players who can throw, those long balls, because even those wingers have got to move forward as well. It's a lot of ground to cover. So making sure that those basically that their skills. I mean, we talk about the rule changes, but the skill base that the young players should be working on hasn't changed.
No.
Like the catch and pass, practicing that long ball, good clean roll balls, all that sort of stuff is still required. So, before they even get to worrying about what plays are we going to run on the line, let's make sure that their skills match what plays you want them to try and run.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's part of this whole the development of players, and that's what you guys are tasked with. It's the development of players, and it's getting that key message across that it's all well and good to sit and watch videos on YouTube and see a play and think, I'm going to go out and do that. But if you don't have the skills to back it up.
That's it. And it's getting players to understand, like we deal with a lot of youth players here that, we say, go and watch, the last Youth World Cup. But you can't just no longer watch a game. You need to actually be a student of the game. And if a try is scored off a certain play, rewind that tape and have a look at why the try was scored, who the ball was dumped on, what the defence did or didn't do as to why that actually worked, instead of just going, oh, well, they scored off a rooster, we're going to go out, next time we play and run a rooster, but actually understanding why it's worked.
So from a development perspective, that's what you're looking for, that understanding, not just seeing it and trying to do it, but understanding why they did it, how they did it, what players they were, targeting in that, say, with the 7 meters, that sort of concept, that development aspect of watching videos and learning.
100%.
That's the key that you talked about there. So just take it out to the next rule now, and it goes hand in hand with this 7 meters, but also more in the midfield, the obstruction play. The new introduction, players in the defending team may not obstruct or interfere with an attacking player. That concept's been around for ages, but what's changed for the 5th edition?
Yeah, well, I mean, like you say, it's always been there. They've taken out, you can see there on that slide, they've taken out the wording shadowing, which is, I think, is a fantastic thing. We have been basically told, in meetings that the attacking player has to beat the defending player to the offside position.
Yeah.
So if I dump the ball on the 7 meters, as long as you don't obstruct where I run by changing direction, I basically have to beat you to the try line before you get there for me to get a penalty.
Or you get a penalty. Yeah.
Yeah. That's putting it as black and white as what you can. But that's how it's basically explained now, is that you basically have to beat the defender to the offside position.
So it brings back that concept again of the referees. They're just going to let the game flow. And the defence, is now allowed to change direction by removing that shadowing out. We used to see where a player would go one direction, trying to get the defender to go with them, and then step back to the inside, and the defender would almost have to just stop and beaten hands up every time. Yeah. Now the game flows a little bit better because that defender can change direction with the runner. And as you said, it becomes a contest.
Yeah, and no longer does the player have to stay on their line that they've chosen as a defender to get onside. Well, a lot of the drills we're doing with our youth is, like, if I'm making a touch, protecting my short side, there's no point me continuing to protect my short side if the ball's gone the other way. So if the ball's gone the other way, then the threat's gone away. So then I need to get closer to where the threat is. So there's no point me keeping on my line to get onside when I can get onside by changing direction and going the other way.
Yeah. And another key part of this one too is the penalty exclusion zone that's been introduced as well. Where the defender enters the 7 meter line, all defenders must move forward. We've talked about that. But if the defending team gives away 3 consecutive penalties for anything in that area, the last penalty that is penalised will be sent, or the last player that's penalised will be sent to the nearest sin bin area.
Yeah. This is a big one change. There was a similar rule in the 4th edition where they were sending players to the side, but it was more to the referee's discretion. It wasn't black and white saying, the 3 discretions. So it's within that set of 6.
Yep.
The 3 discretions and any player. So they are put to the side pretty much for that next set of 6.
So it's clearly defined there, and this is where I guess it's not a sin bin in the sense that the sin bin is at the discretion of the referee. There's no timed sin bins or so forth. There wasn't. But here we've got a very clear delineation on how long that player will be in the penalty exclusion zone, and it's outlined there, as you can see. That becomes a completed set, which is defined as either a try, a change of possession, or a penalty against the attacking team. So again, clearly defined. The advantage lasts as long as it takes for one of those things to happen.
Yeah, one thing that if we're coaching the youth or training is to make sure they understand too that player has to make the sub box before they can re-enter the field of play when they're brought back into the game. They just can't come from the side back into the field of play.
Yep.
They have to make the sub box. The same player can re-enter the field of play, but they have to get to the sub box and then re-enter the field of play.
Right, so yeah, so a big change there, and one that's been exploited quite well by some of the leading teams too, trying to get that number advantage by just playing, attacking football and trying to draw the penalty from the defenders, put them under pressure, and that's something that I guess the youth can really take in.
Yeah, it's a huge advantage for a team if they can draw those 3 penalties and play a 6-on-5 game.
Yeah. Okay, so we take it out now. We've talked about that 7-meter area, and you brought in one of the real big skills that's come into the game is that long bomb, the pass from, ostensibly sometimes the middle to the winger, cutting out an outside middle and a link. And we're talking sometimes, 20 meters, 30-meter passes. The real good defensive wingers get up in that channel. They take an intercept. They go herring up the field. It used to be on an intercept that when you got touch, it was the first touch. What's the new rule now?
Well, now that becomes a 0 touch. So effectively giving you seven touches, which is, again, a huge advantage to the attacking team. But I think it gives an incentive to the defending team to actually try and get in those passing lanes and take those intercepts where they can. It's you watch a game of high level touch, and a good team will get down the field in 6 touches, no problem. So you give someone an extra touch, it's like you see in the NRL when they kick the ball dead and they get the 7 touches. It's a huge advantage to the attacking team.
And I guess that's a really good point. The player that takes the intercept has some decisions to make now. It used to be you just pin your ears back and go as hard as you possibly could. But now it's a little bit about building that momentum, building that pressure. You've got an extra touch up your sleeve. So there's different phases that can be brought into the game. So giving the young players that ability to make decisions at the switch of a drop of a hat. Yeah. It's a big thing to get into these kids' head.
Yeah, and that's also something that can be practiced at trainings. The winger takes the intercept. That a lot of times maybe the opposition winger who's trying to score the try will see that they may not even be going for the ball and just try and make the touch on the winger who's taken the intercept. So what are we going to run? What are we going to do from here? Is we still subbing? We're going to go down the field. What are our options?
I guess the other point to make here too is, but it's not all in favour of the player taking the intercept. If the winger gets up in the channel and knocks the ball down, it's 0 touch now to the attacking team. So there is some choices to make there about what is the percentage play, but with great risk comes great reward, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you would like to think that in the teams that you have, that your wingers are one of your quickest players. So if they're taking that ball, that there's a pretty good chance that they could get a fair way down the field from that intercept.
Yeah, nice. And back in the day when I was playing wing, that probably wasn't true, Dave, that the wing was the fastest player, but we don't need to talk about that. No new edition of rules was going to change that for me, let me tell you. So the next one there to touch on, and you spoke about a little bit earlier on, is the sin bin. So players in this, the changes in this area have been designed to allow more clarity for exactly how long a player should be in the sin bin. So now we have 4, it's defined as 4 completed possessions. So there is that clear definition now around, what constitutes a period of time. It's taken away that referee's discretion. So I guess, completed possessions as described here is a try or a change of possession for that team. So, 4 changes of possession, whatever it may take. Again, what are some of the decisions that we're looking at that we're talking to players there when we have that number advantage for now? What is a defined period of time?
Yeah, this one is a massive thing in the game. Like you'll see at most levels of the game that teams just can't defend against 6-on-5 for that amount of time. So you're basically talking about two sets each, and that probably one thing that it's not listed there. If I have the ball and 3 touches are gone and you knock it down, that's not a completed set. So you could knock the ball down 5 times and I've still got it and haven't completed a set. So it has to be a completed set of 6.
Yeah,
for it to count. So defensive wise, we're running a lot of drills with the youth on how to defend 6-on-5. It's not easy, but normally trying to get the links to make touches, not the middle. Different people have different theories on how this should be defended, but I think most stock standard one that's going around is what we just spoke about.
Yeah.
But very hard to defend for that period of time, especially at the high level end of the game.
So I guess too, a rule introduction like this one reinforces the importance of not giving away penalties that are going to get you into a sin bin scenario, because the implications now are quite massive and quite defined.
Yeah, I'm not sure what guidelines the referees have around what they consider a sin binnable offence. I know, the last State of Origin that we just had, players called offside and actually sort of tackles a player so they can't score, which is obviously a sin binnable offence. I guess it's probably anything that's not in the spirit of the game or is stops maybe a try scoring situation that's foul play. But yeah, a massive advantage to a team if you're a defending team and you can manage to maybe only leak 1 try in that situation, then you've done pretty well, I think.
Yeah, you've carried it off. Yeah, nice. We looks like we do have Jordan back. Apologies for the technical issues that we are experiencing. It's good to have you back on board, Jordan. We just talked about the sin bin. Did you want to add anything in relation to that?
Yes, I think on the whole, I pretty like the new rules about sin bin. So pretty much like it does create positive impact to increase the pace of the game, especially when attacking team get a new 6. If like people want to slow down the attack for their own advantage, so the new rule really prevents that kind of strategy to occur. So on the whole, I really like the rule. Yes.
And something else that's been brought in around, I guess, the sin bin, or David mentioned the the spirit of the game. One of the rules that's been changed or brought in is a clear definition around the breakaway and the interchange scenario. So this came into play where an intercept or a line break, where that was occurring, the players would step off the field at the far end, and there'd be somebody, miraculously, a defender would be there in front. So we're looking now at a clearly defined rule around that, where an intercept or a line break is made. Players are not permitted to interchange until the next touch is made or the ball becomes dead. Okay, so what is it there that we're trying to take out of the game?
I think the main purpose of the change of rules is to create a fair play. So when interchange is made and it's obviously no defender ahead, so if people get into the interchange and get on the sub box, and that really gave a massive advantage for the defenders. So on some scenarios, we do see the defending team making touches. So that has been, I think, in the 2018 Youth World Cup, we have tried to apply that rules in the Youth World Cup, and now I'm glad.
Looks like we've lost.
We lost him.
We lost Jordan again. There, he's dropped out of the feed. But yeah, I guess the breakaway interchange rule is, as he said, it's about the spirit of the game and just bringing in some intent. There's now clearly defined rulings around what will take place in those that are set out in the 5th edition of the rules. But ostensibly, what it means is that you can't have a breakaway situation, then all of a sudden a defender appears miraculously in front of the player that's racing down the field. And it gets back to that intercept scenario we were talking there, David, about the options that the attacking player has now. He's got an extra touch up his sleeve, but it's all about taking that momentum and making those choices without somebody, like I said, miraculously jumping up out of the ground.
Yeah, because the old rule used to be that as a defender, especially if there was a breakaway, you could enter the sub box at one end and then the other defender could come out at the other end, which was a huge advantage. I like the rule change. I think it's not really in the spirit of the game the way the old rule was. I think the way that's a good rule change, I feel.
So a real key that you talked about right at the start, Dave, you mentioned it in our discussion around the choices that we have when we get the awarded the tap-off. So we're now looking at the back end of the game, the drop-off. We've got a drawn result, and we're going to a drop-off. So what are the changes of the drop-off, and how important is it now for players that are coming through the game to the elite level, how we understand the drop-off procedure?
Firstly, I think it's very important for our youth to practice drop-offs a lot, because we've just had a lot of our junior tournaments here and going to drop-offs, and especially the younger players getting in those situations and not really handling it very well. But the new rule is now you get 2 minutes. So there's 2 minutes starts on the clock, and 4 players from each side restart the game. They've pretty much. I guess,
sorry, Dave. Just to go back to what you were saying before, the other key element is the drop-off commences with the tap at the center of halfway line by the team that did not commence the game with possession.
Correct. So if you tapped in the second half, you get the ball in the.
You get the ball in the first half of the drop-off.
You get the ball in the first start of the drop-off.
Yeah.
So after that 2 minutes is finished, whoever's in front wins. Or if it's still a draw, then we go to 3-on-3 and just keep playing until someone scores. They've pretty much worked out. They've pretty much worked out in that 2 minutes that you get 3 sets of 6. So if you're the team that taps off for the drop off, you pretty much should get 2 sets of 6.
Right.
In that drop off.
That's that advantage you were talking about there.
That's the advantage you get. I mean, it can backfire. I mean, a couple of, I was, I guess, lucky enough to come out on the right side of 2 drop-offs recently with NTLs and State of Origin with the Queensland 20s, where New South Wales in the Origin, New South Wales tapped off and actually dropped the ball off the tap-off.
Wow.
Which was unfortunate. And we went down and scored. They tapped off again and actually got I think 4 touches. We gave a penalty away. They dropped the ball trying to score.
Right.
And then so, it can backfire if you don't control the ball, as you could.
Yeah.
The other thing probably to think about there, if when practicing for your drop off, is if it is looking like a draw coming up to those 2 minutes, you want to be the team with the ball in your hand when it goes to 3-on-3.
When it goes to 3-on-3, yeah.
So even if it's a draw, if it's a draw and you're going back to tap off, well, I wouldn't be rushing. I'd be taking my time to get to 3-on-3, and you still have the ball on the attack. So
I guess with all of these rules now, the rule changes have set out clear definitions around a lot of the stuff that used to be discretionary. So now there are some very clear standards that, as a coach or as a player who's developed, or as a teacher that's just trying to instill new skills into players as they come into the game and develop into the game. These are some of the considerations now we can give to our youth and our developing players, that there are some clear set paths. There are some very clear decisions to be made as a player, and what impacts they're going to have on the game.
I think it helps too with when coaching and training like youth in these situations, and it's more defined for those, people who are coaching the youth as to what's available, because it's there and it's black and white now. And I think also for young referees coming through, it helps them. We've all seen or been in those situations where a player might get sin bin and we're going, ref, when are you going to bring him back on?
Yeah.
What are you doing? And it's like, well, now it's in black and white. It's,
Yeah, I really appreciate that aspect of it, and I think that's one of the key elements of these rule changes is just, how it is a lot more clear cut now, and how it supports the referees in making those decisions and knowing exactly, what parameters they have now to operate in, and conversely for the players as well. I guess a real key thing to mention there is that the 5th edition rules will be reviewed following the next World Cup to see what impact they've had on the game. Far and wide. So whilst we're talking through them and the game is changing along with the rules, they will be reviewed following the next World Cup. We don't know where that's going to be, and we don't know when it's going to be. So, don't shoot up the comments now and ask me when and where it is. I don't have that answer for you. It hasn't been decided yet. So no scoop here on the set of 6, but we will be looking at the rules and just, seeing if they need to be tweaked again. It's great to have Jordan back here as we get to the end of the chat. I can see a smiling face there of Jordan over there in where are you tonight, mate? What city in China are you in?
Guangzhou.
Guangzhou?
Yeah. So
Very
we
good.
need a VPN. Yeah, we need a VPN to get on the live check, so that might
talk to the mayor of Guangzhou and get a better internet connection over there, mate. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to have you shut down. So, but no, thanks for joining us, guys. It's been a good chat, and like I said, it was just a review of the rules, but more around, a bit of an insight into how Jordan's seeing those changes over there in China. And you've mentioned there, Jordan, that you had your the China National Championships. How did that go?
It was very good events, and I'm glad to see the 5th edition has changed the game quite a lot. I think that will attracts more people to play the game. So I think the intention of the 7-meter rules might be attract more athletic players to join the game. So yeah, I think we will see better games. So the game being more competitive with at a higher pace in the later international games. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Nice, as we're looking forward to getting some international touch back out there as well. And Dave, you mentioned the State of Origin, mate. You got one up there, did you?
Yeah, with the Queensland 20s, I was assistant coach there to the Queensland 20s boys. Very tough series. I think we got up 2-1 in the end. But some very, very competitive touch from both teams.
Well, there's a very proud blue, mate. I'll through gritted teeth, I'll congratulate you.
Yeah,
well done.
You just still got the trophy. We still haven't got that off you yet.
Well, we love that friendly rivalry, mate. But it's been great to have a chat to you about the youth development side of things. You guys are doing a great job. And I know during COVID, there are a lot of people that are affected right around the world, and we are trying to reach out and bring as many of these sets of sticks and just changing it up a little bit tonight to talk about, the 5th edition rules and how they've impacted the youth development. But, it's been great to have your insight, gentlemen, and we thank you for everything that you're doing for our youth all around the world. You're based here in Australia, and of course Jordan's over there in China, but you reach out and your the work you're doing right around the world is appreciated by touch players and officials. So we thank you very much for giving up your time tonight to talk us through the 5th edition rules and the impact that it's having. So thanks very much, gentlemen. We look forward to catching up with you again, maybe in another chat. Like I said, we're trying to change it up. We're talking coaching soon. We're going to talk referees. We've had a couple of referees chats, but we are really reaching out. And if you want to have, if you've got an idea about a chat that we can have, please get in contact with us here at the Federation of International Touch, and we look forward to bringing what it is that you want out there. If you want to talk to some leading players, we can make that happen. If you want to talk to some old slow players, you're doing that every week that I'm on the screen. But, it's all good fun. So thanks very much for joining us, David and Jordan.
Thank you, Adam.
Look forward to catching up with our audience worldwide for another set of 6, whenever that is. We look forward to bringing it to you. But thanks for joining us, and bye for now.